Welcome everyone to our regular Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, March 6th. We are going to begin with an executive session and I'll entertain a motion from the board.
Make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 4056E, consultation with legal counsel.
And that's Ethna's motion.
Second.
And Ethan seconds. All those in favor? That is unanimous. All right, we will allow the public back in once the executive session is over.
All right, Tracy, Steve, Town Grant. See anybody here that shouldn't be here, so I'm going to use. Now we'll get the business done first. Well, we have plenty of time.
I heard.
That's all
All right,
right.
welcome everybody. All right, I'm going to declare us out of executive session with no action taken. 6:20. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have got a full board present, therefore a quorum. I'm just gonna, I think we've got some folks that are agenda item specific. So Joe, I'm gonna jump to any adjustments to the agenda.
There are two, Madam Chair. The first one is Chapter 34 has not quite completed its review at the town's attorney's office, so that's not complete yet. For your review, I would recommend rescheduling your public hearing in light of that, and then also schedule the time to talk about that previous to that public hearing.
Okay, so when we get to the calendar, excuse me, when we get to the calendar section of the agenda, we'll discuss rescheduling the public hearing so that there's plenty of opportunity for the public to review the final draft.
Correct.
Okay,
The other item, Madam Chair, is a memorandum that's written to the LUPC commissioners from the senior planner of LUPC. This was provided to us by Linda Jones of Dallas Plantation. This is related to short-term rentals in the plantations, and it would fit under correspondence.
okay. All right. So for those who don't know, Linda Jones is the first assessor for Dallas Plantation, providing us with this correspondence. All right. Bob Carlton, Franklin County Commissioner. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and being here in person. So I guess fill us in. How are things going at the county level? You know, I think you're in budgets.
Ready to go with it.
Okay.
Things are good. They're busy, extremely busy. Where do I start? When I came to you, I was still behind the ears, and I'm not much beyond that, but a lot of good things happening. We've gone and done a salary survey. We had, I guess when Amy got there, realized people were severely underpaid, and you know, I had a hard time hiring people. Did a budget survey. We implemented a increases last year. It's been good, but we're still behind the eight ball, as most towns, municipalities, with trying to hire people. You know, when you look at what's going on between Wilton and Farmington and anybody else in the police departments, you know, it was like a bidding war. So we're trying to find that common ground, and we're getting it. We're getting it. That's been a big issue. We had a pretty big undesignated fund balance last year. And that, along with ARPA, really helped us a lot. We bought 7 new vehicles to the sheriff's department. They bought 2 and we replaced 2. So that was huge help, you know, with that ARPA money. And they desperately needed it. New body armor, new radios, you know, we're getting new guns, right? Just checking those out the other day. Pretty nice. So that was good. We've been kind of putting out brush fires. You know, part of the plan was when I ran as a commissioner was, let's do a strategic plan. We really need to, you know, I went to meetings and we'd show up, I go, okay, we're dealing with all the things on the agenda, but what's the freaking plan, folks? Where are we going? And that's still a goal, but we're still trying to dig out. And I was hoping to have it done first of the year or start on the first year. And then we went right into, well, we had COVID issues like everybody. Then we went into budgets, right into budget season. So things are, I'm trying to think we're looking at. One of the things we wanted to do was a new public safety building. The sheriff's department, the building was supposed to be temporary, and if you've ever been in there, I'm sure you've been in there. It's not pretty. The walls are, I mean, I guess they pushed snow up against one of the walls one year, and the wall was kicked in. They have to take the pictures to the wall so they stay. Otherwise, they hang out like this. It's a mess. It needs it. We have EMA that's downstairs in the commissioner's office that really should be part of up there. We're looking at like a public safety building. And initially we were looking at ARPA funds because we can use ARPA funds to attach on to existing buildings. So we have a dispatch center, so we could attach on and use ARPA money. And since then, we've got wind from Susan Collins' office. There's some possible money available, and we are scrambling. Like, I mean, we have to vote on it. We have to vote on it tomorrow, and like the next week, we have to have all our stuff in the earmark money to the tune of, I don't even want to say, but it'll pay a good chunk of that, which we were going to use ARPA money before. But now we've got federal money. We can't use ARPA money, so we're looking at a couple of different ways. We feel strongly about this. In that building, there would be like a large meeting room where we could have commissioners meetings where we're not, you know, we go upstairs in the county court, and that's okay as long as court is in session. If the court is in session, then we have to go downstairs, and we are literally, it's, you know, you get 3 people in the room, it's ridiculous. So we'd have like it would be a meeting room, the emergency operations center, commissioners meeting room, training room, build up organizations instead of firing ourselves off to everybody. That's one of the things we're going to work on. And again, initial stages, and we're hoping that we can make this happen with Susan Collins' office. They've been excellent. But all that happened like last minute. Budget wise, I know you guys are interested in that as well as I am. It won't be as good as it was last year. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're getting caught up with. The big issue that's happening this year in our budget cycle, and what I can see never happened before. And I'll give you a good example. I sat in a meeting before I was elected, and they came in, they were talking about the IMC. The IMC system was outdated and it's going to crash, and it's going to take us a year, and we got to get on it, and it's going to be $750,000. We use ARPA money. I'm like, they got all done. I said, I asked a question, and they said, yes, why didn't anybody budget for this? I said, oh, the commissioners would never let us budget for this kind of stuff. Big ticket item. What do you guys do for fire truck? A little money away per year, right? That doesn't happen. Hasn't happened. And as a result of that, we are you want to say. Telling a bill of goods, it's not accurate. You have to replace those 7 cruisers, so that's 7 cruisers in 1 year. They're all gonna do with 4 to 5 years to replace. No one ever put money with, which is previously not a budget. Amy and working with all the department heads and most of the budget, you know, say, okay, here's my regular budget, these are my capital expenditures, and we need to start putting money for that. Jail's generator is about to die. It's on its last legs. It's 30, 40 years old. Nobody's budgeted. What's the generator? The generator was down in jail. We have to bring a diesel in for big bucks because we can't let the jail be without power because then we're in for punishment.
So Bob, not only, you know, you mentioned a lack of a strategic plan, but there's also no capital improvement plan.
Exactly. There is not.
There is now.
In this budget cycle, yes, there is.
All right.
And after we, so Amy came, I can't remember when she started, things were, and I came right as they were voting on the budget. So, you know, I had my eyes open for most of this thing. Literally, the budgets were all there. I think the second meeting we voted on the budget. I mean, I followed through on a lot of that stuff, but the planning is going to be much better. And it's going to be a little painful up front because it hasn't happened, but in 3 to 4 years, when we have to replace a whole bunch of cruisers, we'll have money there and it won't be a $500,000 hit to, you know, to the sheriff's department to replace cruisers. This talk, I mean, I think the sheriff's department wants to add personnel. Not even sure where we are at that. I'm not sure where you guys are with the police department. I was asking some questions. I mean, I think we cover the shift for you guys part-time.
And we're down an officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, then Wilton was talking about it. So there's a lot of things moving, a lot of moving targets, but moving in the right direction. You know, that's, again, if we can get to that strategic plan, involving every town, and I would like to do it as the southern towns kind of caucus and then the northern towns caucus, and then, you know, because really, when you think about it, our needs up here, the northern end of the county, and Jay Livermore, Jay Wilton, Farmington, are, you know, somewhat different, and then pulled together as one big county. But look at it, a handful of things that we work towards versus just showing up saying whatever's on the agenda. I've always been one to have a plan, and this is kind of frustrating not to have one.
Well, we get hit pretty hard with the county tax.
I know
We're
it's
second highest.
right behind Carabasset.
Yeah. So it impacts our budget greatly. That's why you were invited here.
I know, and I don't believe me, I know it. I get an earful from someone in Carabasset. I see him once in a while, and they'll say, "Well, we don't use any services." Most certainly do. We have our own police department. I said, "You still use the jail."
Yeah.
And you still use the police department. Use the dispatch. Use deeds. Use probate.
Yeah, it's
Use
all.
the DA's office. I
Yeah.
said so.
You know,
And the hard part is, we were talking in the hall, the growth has been incredible.
Okay.
7.5% in Franklin County last year. Who knows what it'll be this year? It'll probably be, I'm thinking similar,
So you said 7% growth?
7.5% growth last year.
7.5% growth.
And that's the whole county now. So you guys are probably a big part of that. Carabasset is a big part of that. I'm hearing, someone told me today that you guys have like 225 building permits or.
It's over 150.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've got it slated, but still,
Mhm.
the big issue is people have figured out that Franklin County is a great place to be.
Yeah.
And now with internet, you know, they can work from home, be here.
Mhm.
They figured out the secret. I figured it out 40 years ago.
Right.
I said I can live here and recreate here and work here and be great. But Now everybody's coming.
Yeah.
I go into the grocery store in Kingfield and I used to know everybody. I had no clue who these people are, not a clue. And they're year-round residents, so.
As far as the ARPA funds that are available to the towns, municipalities to put in requests for, I think one of the last meetings I tuned into, it was half gone,
A little more.
a little more than half gone. And so are you distributing that in phases or?
Yes, we've kind of put a hold on things. People had requests in, opera requests, and we said, let's, because we were thinking that we're gonna need a big chunk of money for opera to build this new building. And, you know, we'll never have an opportunity again. We said, this is kind of a windfall, so it's like, previous to me, said, you know, we want to take a chunk of this and keep it designated for this public safety building.
So if towns want a piece of the pie, first come, first serve, and then it's gone.
Well, it's not first come, first serve, it kind of gets evaluated. You know, we've had some opera requests, and we said, yeah, but thanks, but no thanks. It's,
Okay.
you know, we kind of evaluate it.
Okay,
Some people wanted money to pay their employees during hazardous pay during COVID, and, you know, we did that for our own employees, but we can't do it for everybody.
no,
Yeah, so
we did that out of our own ARPA funds
Yes.
last year. It was
Yeah.
approved at town
Yeah.
meeting. We wanted to reward our employees, and
Mhm.
so fortunately it passed. But yeah, that was out of our own ARPA funds, so get that.
50% of it.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
50%.
what kind of growth are you seeing here in this town?
It's been a real estate boom. And land is still selling at a pretty steady clip. So, you know, which, you know, indicates an interest in building, and we just don't have enough builders.
And they're tied up for 2 years.
They're tied up, a lot of them. I mean, that's maybe more, but that's land is still selling you know, and there's just not enough inventories. The last bit I heard, I don't know about anyone else, but it's, you know, it has slowed down, you know, a little bit, but it seems pretty steady.
Yeah, I think the interest rates slowed a little bit, but I don't know, it's lived in Franklin County since 1980, you know, you saw the little booms and some of the booms when this happened, and it was
Yes,
through the roof.
through the roof.
What about workforce housing? I'm sure you guys deal with that too, I mean,
We like what you did with that group, and we'd like to be a part of that too, but we're not as far advanced as they are.
okay, yeah, they
Because that's something
really-
we need desperately.
yes, exactly, and they're working, you know, Lloyd Cutler said the best, he said, we got, towns always got along together, but never could come together like this, and they did, and everybody's very focused, nobody's like, what about me, this is all, you know, someone said, oh, it's just all about Sherwood. This Jed Whiting from Stratton Lumber, before we voted on it, he said, oh no, right after we voted on it, he said, thank you. I said, well, it's right from you. He goes, you have no idea. He said, I have a handful of guys, key guys, live in Skowhegan, that drive to Stratton every day to work that. And with that project in Madison coming online, he says, when that comes online, he says, where do you think they're gonna go? He said, they're gonna drive from Skowhegan to Madison, and I'm gonna be left high and dry. He says, now we can, you know, work towards something there. And Re-Energy, my son works for Re-Energy, they can't hang on to people. So it's not just the ski areas, it's the businesses, the sawmills, Arc Enterprises, and he's got 27 people, he's used 40. So yeah, it's real. And so yeah, they came together, and it's really working well. I checked in with Charlie Woodruff today. I said that they were looking at some federal money, and I said, okay, when the federal state money comes, that doesn't change the rules, does it? He goes, no, absolutely, because I said, sometimes you get the federal dollars or the state dollars, and there's some caveats to that housing that has to be, I said, this has to be for workforce, period. In terms of anything else, I said, we're gonna dance. So,
Right.
and he assured me, he says, that's it. So it's good. It's a good working group, and you feel free to call them up and attend the meeting and just see how
I
they.
already talked to John Beaupre.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the champion.
Yeah, he is definitely.
He sings that song. So, yeah, it's a big issue. And even Care of Assets, looking at, they're working with Russell Black to take a piece of the public lot, so that the town where the outdoor center is, used to be a public lot for the state of Maine. There's still some deed restrictions. So they're trying to get a piece of that property, to get the covenants off there, so they could actually build workforce housing on the town's land, right at the entrance to the outdoor center, which makes sense as well. So
Right.
they're looking at a spot in Kingfield. I think they're looking at a spot in Stratton as well. So it's good.
No, it's definitely needed. Go ahead.
So do you predict with the notice that the J Mill is now closing earlier? Did you predict something happening with that town?
I've heard all kinds of things.
Right,
I've heard everything from another paper mill to a grow operation to a vertical greenhouse to grow tomatoes. I've heard a recycling center. I've heard everything under the sun, and nobody's saying a word. So I don't even know. I don't even know if there is. I think there's a lot of people circling, but nothing definitive. As far as the tax base, I think it's been devalued, but we don't take the big hit until machinery actually gets taken out of the mill. Is that correct, Joe? Okay. So everybody said, oh, because they're closing it means it goes away. I said, no, I don't believe so. I think it's, they have to physically remove the machines. And we don't, I mean, I shouldn't say we don't talk to them. Shiloh's got, you know, a lot going on down there. They're talking to the state, trying to figure out how they're gonna get through it, but something will happen to it. It's not gonna close and be a vacant lot. So we can only hope for good things.
Right.
so the other thing is like we try to maintain like with the school and work with them to maintain their budgets. So we're not having huge tax increases and stuff. I mean, we would ask to do the same thing for us as a representative for us.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that because I know the taxes are going to go up a lot.
Yeah.
Because of how the income was paid for those salary things.
We are, again, very early into this, and I was talking to Amy as I was leaving, and she said, this isn't good, this is not good. And then, like we talked earlier, and then she called me back, she said, disregard, she says, I made a big error in my math. I said, oh, good, thank you. So it wasn't as bad as we initially thought, but we're still, we haven't even, we do our budget reviews with each department on the 14th. And then I can't remember, we caucus for budget committee, that's coming up fairly soon. Do you have anybody that?
Not that I'm aware of. Have we ever sent anybody down in the budget?
Not.
No, I mean, I think we went one time to support somebody in the caucus part, but it was done before the hour even came, before everyone was supposed to be there. Because I had to run over from work when I was working in Farmington, but everything was all done and shut down by the time I got there.
Okay, yeah, it'll be interesting. There's a lot of, you said, we've got a budget today for the things that are gonna happen in the next 4 or 5 years, those capital expenditures, the thing ignored. And, you know, it was an eye-opening experience for me because I kept thinking, wait a minute, this stuff is gonna fail, it's gonna die, it's mechanical, it's gonna go. Why aren't we putting money away? I mean, your big budget, I mean, the big things you put away for capital expenditures, like I always say fire trucks, what else? Buildings,
plow
Plow
trucks.
trucks,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Each department does.
Every department.
Every
Yeah.
department has their own category.
I mean, we have none of that.
And we have a 10-year capital
Right.
plan. I mean, not that each 10-year range starts from our current year, it may go back, 4 years and, we see what's been done and we see
And what's
what
coming
the
out of
hope
reserves.
is for the future. And the department heads, they're good about evaluating and be like, that can wait, or, if something, catastrophic happens with a piece of machinery, well, then we've got to adjust that as well, but, what we're, our big focus is just not raising too much money. Is not having a huge fund balance that carries forward that we raised and never spent.
Right.
So, anyway, Dennis,
Can I ask you a question? Or just make a statement. I would think we'd be remiss if we don't realize that we're gonna see a big increase in county tax because of salary increases, establishment of capital reserves, public service building, and other issues. So I don't think you're gonna see county taxes go down any. I think you're gonna
No.
see them go up. Plus our growth, and so our percentage of the county budget is gonna grow enormously, I think.
as our, valuation increases.
Well, and that's always the big questions, we won't know for a while what valuations are gonna be, but.
Yeah.
I know Chair Bassett is, with their expansion going on over there, this 300 between townhouses and private homes, and I'm actually overseeing the clearing project for that right now in my own business as a forester. It's 300 units.
Wow,
That won't happen, they'll probably start building them next winter, but, that 300 units, someone told me there's a list of 500 people. They want to do cat tours where all the housing, all the housing units are going to be, and so people could go and start making deposits, say, I want that one.
Mhm.
We haven't got the road cut yet.
wow,
Right.
So,
Oh,
I
no.
mean, that's the kind of, they'll be $1 billion.
wow.
They are there now.
Not quite.
Well, some of them are.
I meant evaluation.
Oh, evaluations.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about prices. I mean,
Oh, it's,
I've never seen anything like it.
we were actually working on the landing. I was there talking to the crane operator. He says, you should have been here 50 minutes ago. So why? He said, this guy walked out of the woods and he's with the crane, he's swinging the wood around, nobody around. Also, he looks, here's this guy standing there. And he said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm looking where the house lots are. He goes, there's no house lots. He goes, according to my map, this house, he says, get out of here.
Man,
Yeah.
That's how they're all,
wow.
I guess I did something wrong because I don't have that kind of money.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So question in regards to the jail, though, there's only so much you can do out of the county for the jail because that's all state spending. So the generator, so is that actually the state? So is that something the county pays for the generator instead of? Because you don't even get the full portion for the jail, correct?
Right. Right.
Because they haven't increased that, I don't even think since Scott's been there.
Yeah.
But-
Well, there's a cap.
Right.
There's a cap. I think it's a 2%,
Mhm.
2% cap.
And I think it's a 48-hour holding facility now.
What's that?
It went back to being a, I did 48-hour holding facility,
No,
the
it's
jail,
not now.
not now.
No. One of the, this is a positive note. A couple of years ago, I actually spoken in support of it when they had the opioid lawsuit. And the county wasn't gonna do it. Franklin County was the only one, wasn't gonna get on board. And I said, why not? They did. And they came home to roost. You got a check for 200, we're gonna receive over 20 years, $750,000. We've got a check for $200 and some odd $1,000 to be used for education and treatment and anything directly related to opioids. One of the things at the jail, they have, seems like you gotta go to jail to get treatment.
Mhm.
And so a lot of them are getting Suboxone. And that's once a day, or, it's pretty frequent. There's a new drug that replaced that, it's an injection, and it's good for like a month, but it's $2,000 a pop. And either way, it's on the, it's part of the, comes out of the county funds. But this grant will, we can use that, and then they're also applying for another bigger grant, it's $500,000 to be used for drug treatment. And that first settlement, we got $750,000, there's two more potentially coming. It could be in excess of $1 million, several $1 million that we'll have in our coffers to use towards drug treatment. And drug treatment education, what Amy's doing is creating a committee, very similar to what we have like for our TIF committee, and say, these are the people that will, people will put in, have requests for this money, and whether it's education or treatment facility, or whatever. We talked to the hospital, HEC, to talk about working with them as far as some treatment and education. But that committee will take requests, and then we'll make recommendations for funding from there. So, no question, we got a problem throughout the county, no question. We kind of look in the obituaries of somebody there that shouldn't be there. And
Right.
it's sad. But, we're gonna take these dollars and try to get them to the right places for the right purposes.
Yes, Mark.
I was wondering if we could ask Bob for some insight into the improved communication systems that all the towns paid in assessments. Really don't understand just what that improvement was.
The system we have, I don't know a lot, so if you really want nuts and bolts, you should talk to Tim Hardy. But the IMC system we had is no longer going to be supported, and it's just a matter of time before it implodes. And this new system has to be built. It's built specific to Franklin County, so it handles police, fire, EMS. It does all the dispatch functions, it does all the record keeping. It's pretty complex, and we have to get, the clock's ticking as far as how long that'll last. So that's all I can tell you. That's all I know. But we'll be dead in the water without it.
But have all the towns paid their
So
share? You gave them till 2020 for fall of 2024.
Farmington was dragging their feet, but I think they've come to the table. I think everybody's kind of.
Because Joe recommended our town pay it all. I think ours was like $8,900 or something, that we just pay it all this year.
Yeah.
And be done with it.
Which we haven't done yet, but it will happen by June 30.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, I can take a check back. Yeah, that's,
Okay.
we got,
So when will that be built? When will when will it be operational?
a year from now.
A year from now?
Yeah, it's not one of these where you pick it up and you plug it in and it works. They build it specifically to Franklin County. It's a very complex. If you've ever been in the dispatch center, it's
It's
like
going to be
Cape Canaveral.
housed in the original.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Dispatchers do a great job. I'm a firefighter, so I have the radio on all the time. And it's unbelievable how they juggle some of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, but if you really want more detail, Amanda Semino, who used to be the dispatch supervisor and then our director, and Tim Hardy can give you more. Or Brad.
I can't remember his last name.
Yeah, Brad. Yeah, we have a new dispatch director who's doing a great job, super good job. He could give you some more information, but I would be wrong in whatever I said. I went much further.
Any other questions for Bob? Commissioner Carlton.
So pretty much a year from now, we'll be taking out papers and you'll have a new commissioner. I will be hopefully in a different district. So, next year, Election in 24, we vote for 5.
5. Mhm.
Got some insight, somebody that might want to run up this way, and he lives in Weld, former state senator, state representative. His last name ends in Field. As far as I'm going, which I think would be, super addition to the board of commissioners, so. But, we all have our little districts, but I told them at the end of the day, it's what's right for Franklin County, not just.
Yeah.
No silos. Try to-
We're thrilled with the increase for representation, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
We
it's
supported
way
that.
overdue,
Yeah.
way overdue, so.
You'll be in the Carabasset one.
The district I would be in would be, which broken out as New Sharon, Industry, New Vineyard, Kingfield, Carabasset. And then, unorganized territories surrounding that area. This here would be, no, and then it ends up, I think Dallas. 'Cause it's all done by population, so I think it's either Sandy, no, it's not Sandy, it's pretty much Dallas. So Dallas, but not Stratton or Copeland, and then down 27, and then this would be here down to Weld, doesn't include, yes, it includes Phillips, Avon, Strong, Weld, that'd be this district, and then the others would be Jay, Chesterville, and then Wilton and Perkins and Washington are different.
Mhm.
It's kind of confusing. I still don't have the map, but it's coming right up.
Farmington gets split in two, right?
Yes, exactly. So one district would be just part of Farmington, the other one would be Farmington and a portion of not Wilton, but maybe Chesterville. I kind of focus on the stuff that I know that I'm going to be involved in.
Mhm.
So.
Right.
Joe, Amy, you have questions, don't hesitate at all. She's running around with her hair on fire, but that's Amy.
Mhm.
She's doing a great job, and we got Tiffany there, her deputy now, and they're working hard to keep things in line. Hopefully soon, we'll be able to talk about strategic plan, because we wanted to do it first of the year, and here it is, March.
Yeah.
So we're all busy.
So are you thinking that the county is gonna start budgeting too for donations again,
Donations,
like
nonprofits.
nonprofits?
Yeah. Yeah, they're coming to the table. They're all saying, wait and see. I'm sure they'll be there, and I'm sure there'll be more. We gotta be careful. There's, Western Maine Transportation, you guys, other than use it as a town resource, or does the mountain use it?
We don't use it, that I'm aware of.
Okay. They've come to the, they contacted me and wanted to talk about what they did. And provide a great service, but it seems to be, I know they do a lot of Sugarloaf, but Sugarloaf and then some federal grants pay for that. No county dollars, but Farmington, Wilton, J, I think they provide a service. They would like some money from the county, but that's 3 towns out of 21.
Right,
So
Right,
you don't want to pay for that, do you?
rather not.
we pay for a lot.
We pay for transportation.
That's kind of, the things that we're gonna fund, that I shouldn't say, that we should fund the things that should service the entire county, the county can pay for it.
Because the problem that we had when they switched over is the fact that they would only come to the town of Rangeley. They didn't go to Dallas Plantation. They didn't go to Rangeley Plantation or Sandy River. They just basically came to us and asked us for the money, and they didn't ask anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, was one of our questions. Are you asking the plantation? Well, no, because they just see us as Rangeley,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
which isn't the case, but
And it's, this budget cycle is gonna be tough. It's gonna be, I can already see it, and I'm already forming, the little storms forming in my brain about, okay, we got to figure this out. And I'm not one to say no, yes or no. I'm one to say, it's gotta be another way to skin the cat. Come on, it's sometimes it's too easy to say, we need this money. Why? Because we need it. Because this is broke. I said, well, okay. Or it's getting old. I said, yeah, can we get another 6 months out of it? Those are the things we have to be looking at. How do we stretch that, the little simple things, just a little bit? Last year, it was Christmas, we had that opera checkbook and, well, that ship has sailed, so.
Any other questions for Commissioner Cole? All right, thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming.
Thank
yeah,
you.
here's my number, don't hesitate.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Very good, thank you.
Excuse me, Mark. Conflict of interest disclosure. If we get to anything in the agenda where a board member feels they have a conflict of interest, please disclose that and abstain from participation. We've already reviewed our adjustments to the agenda. Review and approve meeting minutes. Board of Selectmen, February 21.
Madam Chair, make a motion to approve the February 21st, 2023 regular meeting minutes for the Board of Selectmen with any additions or corrections.
It's Ethan's motion. Second. And Ethna seconds. Are there any, excuse me, any recommended changes? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Next up, the February 27th.
Madam Chair, make a motion to approve Board of Selectmen budget meeting minutes from February 27th, 2023 with any additions or corrections.
Ethan's motion. Second. Ethna seconds. Any suggested changes? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Any public present to speak on a non-agenda item? Yes.
Yeah,
Dennis.
this was hoping I could go about the update on repairs at the Classic Station. What's happening with that? As you know, we got the same problem you guys got right here.
I can't, I've got frog in my throat.
Guys backed up on the addition and came down through the ceiling and run the sheetrock at the installation, all that. And screwed up some of the wiring.
Right, and Chief and I have been working on that. The Fire chief has the quotes, he has the company that we've hired to do this. We've been in touch with the insurance company. And that's kind of where we're at. Waiting to hear back from the insurance company. They used a different adjuster in this room than they did in a closet. So there's taking a little bit more time, I guess, down there. The Chief is aware of that.
Well, I know, I'm just checking for my own, as a taxpayer, not fine. Want to make sure we stay on the list.
All right, any public to speak, any other non-agenda items, questions? All right, moving on to boards and committees, you'll see that you've got meeting minutes from the Airport Commission for January 30th and February 8th, Planning Board meeting minutes. Consent items. First item is a liquor license, excuse me, application for a civic organization. Rangeley Region Health and Wellness. That was the heading on this application for a license for an incorporated civic organization.
Motion to accept the application for a license for an incorporated civic organization for the Rangeley Regional Health and Wellness Partnership and for the annual benefit concert. on July 29th, 2023, from 3 PM to 9 PM.
Shelley's motion.
Located at 25 Dallas Hill Road in Rangeley, Maine.
Okay, sorry. Shelley's motion. And Ethan seconds. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is unanimous.
I was just gonna
Yes.
say, that, I'm on the board of directors, I'm here representing the questions.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. So Dennis is here representing the Board of Directors from Rangeley Health and Wellness. They have about 4.
And no, I don't know who the band is gonna be, but we kind of know, but we'll wait for the contract to be signed.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you,
Mick
Dennis.
Jagger was busy this year.
All right, we have an event permit application for Rangeley Health and Wellness.
make a motion to accept the event permit application for the Rangeley Health and Wellness. And location begins and ends at the Rangeley Chamber of Commerce. The event is Stars and Stripes, 5K run walk, and kids/family fun run. And that is to be on July 4th, 2023. And it starts at 9 AM is when the race starts.
Okay, Shelley's motion. And Ethna seconds. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Next up is an event permit application, again for Rangeley Health and Wellness.
I make a motion to accept the event permit for the Rangeley Health and Wellness. Location of the event is 25 Dallas Hill Road, Rangeley Wellness Pavilion. And the name of the event is the Annual Summer Benefit Concert. And that is to be held on July 29th, 2023. And it says set up before gates open 3:30 to 4 PM. And then the end time is 9:30 PM.
All right, Shelley's motion
Second.
and Ethan seconds. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Very thankful for all the effort that goes into that, Dennis.
It's been a good event for us for quite a long time. I've heard a lot of people come to town, and you know what? At 9 o'clock and then 10 o'clock, it's over.
It's over.
We cleaned up and done.
Yeah. So next up, we've got a vendor's license for Rangeley Health and Wellness.
Make a motion to accept the application for vendor's license for the Rangeley Health and Wellness, address of 25 Dallas Hill Road. And I think that's all I need, right?
Obviously, it's for
It
all
says
town
for
festivals.
all town festivals, farmers market, RRHW property.
Shelley's motion
Second.
and Ethan seconds. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Is
Esna.
this not considered a new one? And in which case would have required a public hearing? Should have required a public hearing?
Vendor's license. This is a vendor's license for all the events that we have throughout summer.
Right, I understand
At the
that, but is
pavilion.
this a new
Right.
one?
The renewal.
Says it's a renewal.
It says it's a renewal, but we're in a new calendar year and I don't recall seeing it any time this year. Or anytime in the fiscal year. Is there an existing one already? Because then this would be redundant. If there's an existing one for the vendor year, for the fiscal year, then this is a redundant application and not necessary. If there is not one existing for the current fiscal year, then it's a new one and needs to have a public hearing.
Even if they do the same exact thing every year.
My understanding was it went by fiscal year.
And there's-
If that is no longer the case, if it doesn't go by fiscal year, then
This one is a seasonal request for 2023.
I just want to make sure that we're handling them all appropriately.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
everyone's comfortable with it being a renewal, then that is a moot point, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we've got the motion and the second, so we'll see in a minute. Any other, any other questions or comments? Yes, Shelley.
So, do we have record of how it's been done every year?
This has been done annually and reviewed annually.
And we treat it as a renewal, we don't treat it as a, and that has gone through the ordinance, so that's, we're within the ordinance.
I'm gonna assume yes, but I'm actually looking at the ordinance now.
Okay.
I was trying to find it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to create any confusion. What I'm looking for, I guess, is the definition between new and renewal.
So license renewals, this is article, chapter 14, article 14.4, license fees, license renewals is the third paragraph. Renewal applications and license fees shall be submitted to the town clerk at least 30 days prior to the expiration date. Renewal applications shall be posted for review at a meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Upon approval by the Board of Selectmen, the clerk shall issue a vendor's license in conformity with this ordinance.
So then by indication of the word renewal, there is an existing one. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, and this is a renewal for the new fiscal year.
Right, it's correct. It'd be 30 days prior to the expiration date, so.
okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Next up, a request to authorize the purchase of a leased vehicle from the police department reserve. So we have got, let's see, Joe's notes. So Joe lets us know just that the chief has presented two options, and both options are comfortably within our police reserve account. Requesting authorization to enter a lease purchase for one of these cruisers, and authority to expend an amount necessary from the police reserve account not to exceed $35,000. Yes.
Do we have any previous, of the previous budgets, summaries of the previous leases anywhere listed, or what they've done before and who they've used? I mean, it's work always kind of who you guys go through. I'm new, so just trying to.
It's, in the past, it's been Height quite often, but it is Sheet. Looked like he contacted three and no one got back to him besides Quirk, I guess is what he's saying.
Right.
I don't know if we've ever used Quirk.
I don't through my recollection.
I'm just,
Well,
yeah,
I
just
just-
curious if we could, in the future, get,
Yeah,
things
they
like
do.
this, get a list of like what we've done and who we've used previously and what those lease agreements were, just to have for somebody who like me to know what we've been doing in the past. Would be helpful.
Shelley?
So one of the questions that, and I've already talked to Joe about it as well, I thought last year we had earmarked ARPA funds for purchasing the
The police cruiser?
It's not true.
I recall it as well. I don't know if it was just a discussion or if
Oh,
we
I said
took
I
action.
I don't
Oh,
recall
I
earmarking
do.
that. We might have talked about it.
I
I
think
don't recall being covered by that.
No, I think it was, because the ARPA funds have such a narrow availability as to what we can spend it on. I know it was used, it was discussed as an example.
I brought it up that, and he confirmed it, that those funds were used for cruisers.
Yes, Sean.
So the other thing as well is, I mean, I didn't get a chance to look at the capital improvement plans. But if we are earmarking so much money that we're putting aside in order to have those funds available to be able to pay for those cruisers by having the lapse in between, is there a reason why we would be doing it, why we would not have to do a lease? Maybe if the money's in the reserve. I mean, I know there's not quite enough to cover the expenses, but at the same time, I'm looking at the cost of the equipment, and then I'm looking at how much interest is being paid, and if we're already raising it, I'm just throwing that up there. And you don't really see what the packages include, like what's the difference, is the only difference between that it's a 2022 and a 2023, where it is one's $35,248, the other one's $44,022.
So
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I'm gonna assume what it means in the third paragraph, the cheaper ones, administrative package. The other one, I assume, is patrolling police interceptor with the plastic seats and the seatbelts, just like he's got in his current cruiser.
That's correct.
So administrative package would be detective or somebody.
Right, has carpeted floors, has a center console in it. Does not have the plastic seats like the patrol. It's jet black or all black. Doesn't match the other ones, which are gray. The 23 model is a gray, least gray color, matching the fleet. Chief and I have talked about that. It's not a huge priority to save $10,000 or $12,000. He's on board with the less expensive rig, which is black color. There's a package to outfit this. Now, this does not come with lights and sirens. That's extra. That's 16,000 approximately for either model.
And which one are we replacing?
So there's I don't know the fleet number of it, but there's a blue one that's been here for time immemorial. It's down, hiding out in the snowbank down at the 20th. Yeah, that's the one that would be moved out of the fleet.
And what year is that?
50.
I think it's a 14, 15.
And what's the mileage on it?
That I don't have. I do know that it's, the brakes are not great on it. It was taken out of service
So it's taking out.
and it hasn't been run for a while.
Are there any miles on these new possible lease vehicles?
Minimal.
Okay.
Minimal. There may be some test miles on there. I don't know if it says on the proposals. They're both new. It doesn't say on the proposals.
I know it's been a while. Madam Chair, I remember specifically us asking all the mileage, all these questions when we were possibly going up to Fort Fairfield or something to go after a cruiser. So it's nothing against you asking, I'm just pretty sure we already took all this information about why we need to get rid of the blue cruiser or whatever, like at least a year ago, wasn't it?
That's an old discussion.
But at the same time, is it? You would hope it would be utilized and we're not paying for, so the new cruiser that we're looking to purchase, is that something that's gonna be parked?
No, the new cruiser would be put into service. The chief's cruiser would be either used by the chief or it's decided. That's a chief's decision. I'm not gonna meddle in that. Whatever he wants to prescribe, that's up to him. Those two would be the primary fleet vehicles, and the other one would be, we can get a third officer, would be used by a third officer primarily, or reserve.
So, sorry, Madam Chair, I remember the discussion because you and I, or all of us talked about whether we were gonna sell the blue cruiser outright because the trade that was offered a long time ago was like nil. So we were talking about put it out to bid or private sale somehow. And that's what we were gonna do with Blue Cruiser, because the initial quote the chief gave us a while ago, the trade was
And then ARPA funds came up.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so just getting back to Shelley's first point is, and that is the reserve funds used for capital purchases. So is there a reason not to use the reserve funds?
Yeah.
And taking a lease out and paying interest? That would be the follow-up question. I think it appears to empty the reserve account. So if you look at Joe's notes, the reserve account balance is 51,783, and of course, equipment plus purchase price equals 51,000. So is there, what else would that money be used for if it wasn't used for vehicles, that reserve account?
And January 1st, you're gonna have more reserve funds going in there, right?
July 1st?
July 1st, not January. The other J.
Okay, I think I understand the question. So historically, which will go to Sam's question.
Yeah.
The town has leased police cruisers, we leased other vehicles too. The primary thing that does for us, which I find beneficial, is you can break up. If you have a $60,000 purchase, you break that over 3 equal installments over 3 years. And it allows you to kind of put that amount aside, especially if you have a department. Police doesn't do this as much as other departments that have more than one thing coming up in a given year. They typically space the cars out 2 or 3 years. I think the next one is in the capital plan for 2 years from now. So that's the other side of the equation, is making sure that when we get to 2 years out, we've got what we need to lease again. We were on a leasing schedule. There's nothing that says you can't buy it outright and equip it. We just want to make sure that you have enough in there when you get to the next scheduled replacement item.
So payments would be taken out of the reserve account.
The other thing I could add, Madam Chair, is there's a little bit more elsewhere here potentially. There are 2 cruisers that were available at the end of last week. The chief and I talked about bringing this to you. These are available to the public. There's no hold on these. They could have sold today. We don't know. And I'm not saying that to be a salesman. I'm just saying Chief and I are okay with the blacked out model, the less expensive model. If that's still available, we'd love to buy that. Save the town some money. He's okay with it. If that's not available, we'd like to pursue the other one. And that's where the math is a little bit different, because that purchase price is 44, and if you equip it, then you're at 60. So you're a little over what's in the reserve. If you were to buy it outright.
Yeah, sure.
So we don't reuse our equipment that we already have?
No.
Any particular reason why I can't use the same light bar?
I don't think it, well, I guess it would fit, but it's not up to date. And I'm not sure that it fit, honestly. The biggest reason why equipment doesn't go from the cruiser that's 8 or 9 years old to the next one is it may not fit, probably is not going to fit in that long.
They haven't really
Light bar
changed
might be
the interest.
reusable. You know, is that something we want to get in the corners on? I would want to. You know, officer safety on that, the other end.
So I think what confused me, Joe, is that, you know, within the notes, within your notes to us, the request is authority to expend an amount from the police reserve account not to exceed 35,000 for the first lease year payment, but that's close to the purchase price. So it looks like the actual lease payment is 13 on the cheaper model. I'm just trying to understand the notes, that's all.
Is the, excuse me, Madam Chair, is it the plus equipment that has to do with the lights and everything? So you want first year's lease payment plus the outfit it with lights, whatever.
Right, the lights are one time upfront,
Okay,
well, not upfront, they're a one-time expense that you do at the beginning of the lease.
all right.
Sorry, I could have done better explaining.
That's okay. No, just want to make sure, make sure I understand, that's all. Thank you. Because it is not to exceed, so, it would be estimated, at 29,000 and change.
And they're in the materials that Chief had gone over with the supplier. There's some savings in there for some equipment that's got on the shelf.
Mhm,
Chief is trying to find a way to make this safe and attractive, but
mhm.
reasonably priced. I think it's the bumper, push bumper that is already on the shelf, so you save a few $100s in freight on that item.
Yes, Sam.
Are we concerned about using the entire police reserve account balance of the 51 and why we wouldn't, like, I think Shelley was saying, for the cost of equipment, it being 35,248 plus the 16,000 is still under the 5, it would cost 51,248. And then we would at least own it.
I think sorry, I
Go
think the 16,000 is included in that 35,000. That's what we,
No, I'm talking
Right.
about the actual cost of equipment is 35,248, right?
lease payments plus equipment.
Plus
Is-
equipment on this.
So the cash price on the option A, which is the blacked out cruiser, is 35,248. If you went in there with a pocket full of cash, that's you leave with a car.
And and not doing these.
To outfit
Not
it
doing
would
these.
cost $16,000.
So
Correct,
additional.
and that's what I'm saying, it's only 51,248, so are we against just clearing out the police reserve? I mean, that would leave you with estimately $450 left in that reserve, but is that a?
It takes away,
Is that a-
I'm sorry, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
it takes away some of the cushion in case you do have an issue with another cruiser, the reserve. Your default, if you have front end go in a car or something like that, that wasn't covered by insurance. It's a little bit of a risk for 4 months, because you're right, on July 1, if the budget is approved, then you'll have the reserve account replenished. So it's a calculated risk. The other thing I could say is that we've talked about this previously, the police department, because our staff has what we call the surplus, but unspent operating funds also. So, if we needed to do that repair, I just mentioned that hypothetical repair, you could take it out of, or I could take it out of the operating budget of police and get us through the next few months. So again, it doesn't matter if you want to buy it outright, I'm all for it. The only potential issue there is if that car is not available, the other car is a little bit more expensive and the reserve wouldn't cover that. So the board could vote to buy the blacked out one outright, or if that's not available, lease the other one. Or buy it outright and come up with funds from another source to make up the difference.
Go ahead,
Sorry, I have a question.
Mark.
Two-part question. One, do they have any interest in giving you a price on trade-in value for the one that's down in the snowbank?
We could ask. I don't think it's gonna be a lot, but we certainly could ask that question.
And then the second part of that would be, if you didn't trade it in and the town decided to liquidate it in another manner, an outright sale, that type of, the money, the proceeds from that, would that go into the police reserve or would it go into the general fund?
Typically, those things would go to the general fund, but if the board wanted to, you could.
They could vote to put it back into the
vote to
reserve.
capture it.
Yeah, but I think the town meeting, there's an article that says that if you're selling
Right.
town equipment, funds that come from that need to go into the respective departments that equipment was at. So what Mark is saying is correct. Those funds, if you sold it out, like you go back in the police department, now whether it goes in the police department regular budget or back into capital, I don't know about that.
Sean?
So what do we do with the radios? Like usually what happens when they sell, any other department sells the cruisers, they usually keep the push bumper on there because people just like the looks of it. And then they always have the floodlight on the side. But the county has started putting them out on a website and putting them out for like a live auction. And what happens is after a certain point, they get to, and there's a price, and say people are going back and forth, they'll extend the term for that, so everyone has the option to bid on it. And they have found success with that, where they're getting more than what they would get for any trade-in. I'm just throwing that out there.
And as opposed to like a sealed bid as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's opposed to a seal bid or trade-in.
That's something certainly the chief could follow up on. Ethan, did you have your hand up?
In regards to the bid, because I can't remember exactly how our bid policy works, but is it, God, I guess it has to be, just do a bid with a reserve, like, if you want to make sure that you're gonna get, like, we blue booked this cruiser, we put it out to bid, books for 10 grand, make sure that we get at least 8 in the bid, we can do that, right?
The board can put a minimum on it, yeah, and you would see it again before it's disposed of. The way it works is folks are supposed to, my department heads or staff are supposed to give me a listing, and I tabulate it, and then goes through you before it's liquidated.
Yeah.
It's all about having that trail, so the auditor and others can see, you know, where did this go, what happened to it,
Yeah.
but you can certainly put a minimum in it.
You have a question, Shelley?
Yeah, so how do we find out if ARPA funds can pay for the cruiser?
I can do a quick search either after the meeting or first thing in the morning. My recollection, I don't want to get too far into it because it's just my foggy recollection, is that towns have to have a loss of revenue to claim emergency vehicles like that, like it's fire trucks or police cars, but don't, let me look into it for sure.
Okay.
I can either do it after the meeting if I'm still awake or first thing in the morning. But the other thing that I can qualify with ARPA, it's been our tradition, and I can confidently say to you that I would recommend having an article at town meeting if you're going to spend ARPA funds for any purpose. We did that last year, and it's, you know, getting public feedback before you do it is a requirement of ARPA. I do know that. And then the purest form of getting public feedback is to have a town meeting, tell you, hey, we're aware of this, we approve it.
I just thought that that was our intent last year when we were talking about it. That's why I brought it up.
So,
But I also know that there's a good chance they're already gone. There's been a lot of people looking for them. I mean, there's a lot of people who've gone to, they're going to Massachusetts and finding them.
what Joe is looking for is a motion to enter or authorization to purchase the 2022 Ford Explorer police cruiser.
And if that's not available, Madam Chair, the default would be the other available model, 23.
Well, can we motion to purchase at full cost? Because we'll be saving almost $4,000 and not doing the minimum payments of $13,000. Is everybody okay with that?
You can motion whatever you want.
We just don't have the reserve funds for the 2023.
But then when that comes around, then we do the lease, you know, with the, if we get the 2022,
See what you're saying.
right? I'm sorry, I'm totally saying this terribly.
Nope,
No,
you're saying the
fine.
motion to purchase this outright using
Our
the
reserve
police
account.
reserve if this is not available to enter into the lease agreement for the other one. Correct.
Is that a motion?
Oh, sorry. It was supposed to be Sam's, but yeah.
Do I have a second? Pardon? Matthew made the
I
motion.
second, I second it.
Yeah, okay, so Sam seconds.
Second my motion.
All right. Team approach here. All right, so, we are discussing, yes. Yes, Shelley.
So if the funds can be available for ARPA, then would it be the motion different? I mean, how do we pay it using our?
The motion is
This
what
is
it
the
is.
motion on the table. I don't believe that. I mean, we didn't make any motion to use ARPA funds, so that's the motion on the table.
No, I was using we were.
The reserve.
using the reserve.
Oh, goodness. We can always amend, we can always take different action if, or amend the way this is purchased in the future, Joe, if you've got information that is beneficial, you know,
If there's interest in using ARPA funds for a
Yeah.
cruiser.
yeah,
That's
we
right.
haven't.
I mean, we've already had so many conversations about what to do with those ARPA funds that I thought the cruiser was a passing thought when we were trying to shove to purchase that one from wherever we were deciding to purchase it, and then realized it was too much money. And then it came off the table, and then we said we were gonna use it for sewer funds, and then we said sewer infrastructure, which is far more important than a cruiser, as far as I'm concerned, especially at the rate of growth that we're looking at. We really need to consider the best choice for the ARPA funds for townwide, not just for a specific department, and that's where I'll stand on that.
Doesn't matter.
Huh?
You're gonna spend the town's, those funds on town funds and save the taxpayers money for the fund, so it doesn't really matter what you spend it on.
That's what.
That's your opinion, thank you for it.
No, I mean, really.
No, that's your opinion, thank you for it.
All right, so any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous.
Madam Chair, if that
Yes.
vehicle is not available, do I have any other authority to pursue the second vehicle?
Yes, that was worked into the
Oh,
motion.
sorry, yeah, that was a.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
So sorry, Joe, did we make that less than clear for a minute?
Can you imagine?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I believe lease purchase was the verbiage in for the second one.
Yes.
Thank you. All righty. Screaming right along here through the agenda. Property taxes, a quick claim deed for campground site. Okay. Joe, I think you could probably describe this much more eloquently than I can.
So there are 4 in total, Madam Chair, and there are 2 that have essentially been taken care of. They just need final authorization from you. So the first one is a campground site. The parties paid shortly after the foreclosure date. We're looking for authority to approve and enclose quick claim deed. That one. Generally, the second one, there was a building that was demoed, was on land owned by Union Power. Building transferred to Union Power, the building owner transferred to the power company. Power company was putting a road in, it was in their way, they got rid of it. I think there's a small principal amount there. We recommend just writing that off. There's nothing to foreclose on, the structure's gone. And then the last 2 are a little more involved there. One's a larger parcel, and the other one is in the campground. So we recommend sending notice of intent to sale, and there are provisions in that notice of intent that related to previous owner's age and so forth. So first item is a quick claim deed for campground site 31.
All right, so we need a motion.
Make a motion to accept the municipal quitclaim deed for site number 31, a classic campground, Franklin County, state of Maine, town of Rangeley, for the lien certificate recorded on 6/22/2021 in book 4339, page 295.
Shelley's motion. Ethna seconds. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Next up is a motion from the board to write off the principal amount. 60 Hatchery Brook Road.
Make a motion to accept the write-off of principal amount of $207.60 for the property located at 60 Hatchery Brook Road, owned by, due to the explanation of the building no longer being on the property that's being taxed.
Shelley's motion.
Second.
Ethna seconds. Any other questions or comments on this motion? All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Next up is our two notice of intent to sale letters. So looking for approval from the board for the finance director to mail these notices.
Make a motion to approve the notice of intent to sell for the property located at 2301 Main Street in Rangeley, which was foreclosed on February 3rd, 2023, as presented.
Shelley's motion.
Second.
Sam seconds. Any questions or comments? Yes.
What's the
Ethna?
order of delivery for these? How do you know you get it into the hands of the property owner?
I believe it's certified mail. Chair.
So no guarantee that it's getting in the hands of the owner. Just that it's being delivered via mail.
Should be certified receipt requested.
Right, but I can go pick up somebody's certified mail. My question was, how are we knowing it's getting into the hands of the owner? I asked that for a specific reason on this property. So there's no, okay, perfect. Just trying to verify which way these actually make it to the hands of the named owner. But it sounds like there's no way to guarantee that. We just certify that.
I believe the statute requires certified mail. I don't know if the statute would allow
Hand delivery.
service.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I would follow the statute.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. One more, notice of intent to sell.
Make a motion to accept the notice of intent to sell your former property in regards to site 29 at the Aquatic Campground in the town of Rangeley as foreclosed on February 3rd, 2023 as presented.
Shelley's motion. Sam seconds. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Next up, chapter 34, short-term rentals. We touched on this adjustment to the agenda. The attorney, Kristen Collins, has not had a chance to review all of the selectmen revisions that were discussed and approved at last week's workshop. So there is no draft for us to review and approve. Yes.
I make a motion to table chapter 34 short-term rentals.
Second.
Ethna's motion and Ethan seconds. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Chapter 38, zoning. What we have is the planning board, input from the planning board regarding some clarification and questions. It looks like Attorney Collins was able to reply regarding the setbacks and coverages on table 3. It appears there's still some unanswered questions. Joe, is that a correct interpretation?
No, I think Kristen has covered most of it. The intent of sharing this with you was to let you know that the planning board was
Okay.
contemplating these things. They didn't want to blindside you with it. I think, I thought about this, I think you would be okay to move forward with whatever draft ordinance you have currently,
Right.
the way it's written, bring that to your scheduled public hearing on the 21st. And you can bring these items up at the public hearing and say,
Okay.
we have this document, and we're furthermore thinking about these items that may be included in this document. So I think you'd be fine with it if you were so inclined.
Okay. So no action needs to be taken. This is information, for future discussion at the public hearing and the discussion afterwards regarding presenting the final draft. Shelley.
Part of me would like to have a workshop on it to make sure that that we don't have any questions, like they have questions on the final draft. We haven't really talked about anything or gotten anyone's opinions on if something were to change or something that our notes may not match up completely. I know it's a lot, but and we have a lot of meetings scheduled and stuff, but.
Madam Chair, both boards will be present on the 21st. Normally, I would, let me explain this. Normally, I wouldn't suggest that you would bring more information to a public hearing and then talk about that. However, you're going to have a following public hearing prior to town meeting that will, when you go through the warrant, you will be going through chapter 38, 34, if it makes it on there. So it will be a second public hearing. So you could, even though it's a public hearing on the 21st, you can communicate those two boards publicly about any changes you're contemplating to that document. And then the final public hearing will be the one you hold before the vote. So Rangeley always has those two public hearings prior to going to town meeting. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I just don't like any surprises in between saying, okay, I want to change this, but that's just my personal.
Well, yeah, I mean, you make good points, Shelley. It's there are points of discussion that may come up. So perhaps after the public hearing, after we've received input regarding chapter 38, we schedule that workshop. And so public input and any further dialogue with the planning board, but you'll get it done like all at once. Is that okay? So some nods. All right, so with those notes from the planning board. That is it under consent items. Moving on to correspondence, we have got Joe's employment agreement that will expire August 23rd, 2023, and he is providing that written notification, and there will be future discussion. And Joe reminds us, that this signed agreement is a public document. Any substantive discussion about this should take place in executive session. We'll be scheduling that as well. We have an adjustment to the agenda under correspondence. And that is, excuse me, a memorandum from Land Use Planning Commission. And it is to the Land Use Planning Commission commissioners. And from Tim Carr, who's the senior planner, and this is just regarding short-term rentals in LUPC's service area, which would be the plantations. And so this did come from Dallas Plantation, who provided us with this information. And I believe there is they're having a meeting about this, isn't that, is that the
I believe so, Madam Chair. I think it's the 8th, I think it's Wednesday of this week
Wednesday, the 8th?
via Zoom and in person, but I'm not sure where in person.
Okay,
Lubick meets all over the state.
right. So this is just information. I think you're right, Joe. I think I remember seeing somewhere that it was the 8th. And LUPC does have their own web page on maine.gov. This is just a memorandum that Dallas Plantation shared with us.
Madam Chair, it's Wednesday, March 8th. Agenda, Microsoft Teams. Meeting is scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. in person and via Microsoft Teams, but the notification doesn't say where in person. The website would be the place to get that information.
Thank you, Joe. That's it for correspondence. Under old business, we have 35 Hotel Road. At our last meeting, the board asked just for some additional information. And so I'd like to thank Tracy for providing the additional information. And we've already taken action on this, so there's no action expected. Mark.
At your last meeting, we requested this information. One of you brought up, is there value to the town in this piece of property for some of their other goals, and someone threw out, affordable housing. And I was just wondering, if you go to sell that by sealed bid, can you put stipulations on it that you'd like the bidder to develop it as workforce housing? Or I don't have any ability to control in that sale how it gets used in the future. I mean, it's not on water and sewer, so it's has some limitations there, but under the new rules, if somebody were to make a duplex plus an accessory dwelling unit, would actually end up providing 3 units of workforce housing or affordable housing. Just something to think about. I don't know any of those answers, but brought it up in the story.
Yeah, well, the board has taken a pause on putting this out for bid, and we'll, hold the deed, and there's there are no limitations and glaring deed restrictions as far as the type of, it's restricted for dwelling or for just anything that could interfere with could restrict any future plans. It's a 3.19 acre parcel. So it's a sizable lot, and good question that we could get the answer for.
I'll look into that.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any other questions or comments about 35 Hotel Road? Town dock improvements. Bald Mountain Camp's diving contract, we did receive some correspondence from Bald Mountain Diving that they cannot meet the deadline. Goal was to have that worked on this winter, or that's what, you know, that was what was discussed. And they're telling us that that project, they would need to bump it to next winter, 23-24. And they are in breach of contract, as that was not what the contract called for. It was for the current year that we're in. So we've got a couple of possibilities. Yes, Mark.
If one of your meetings in December, you voted to advance Bald Mountain Diving, $59,000 and some dollars
Mhm.
there to pre-purchase materials for that job. Did the town actually give them a check in that amount?
Yes, we did.
Did you ask for any receipts or purchase orders to see if those materials were actually ordered or what?
We have, so what they do claim, that they have already purchased the materials. They're willing to refund the money.
Oh, I see. Okay, I don't have any of your correspondence.
Yeah.
So,
So we're, so they are willing to, refund the money, and even though they've already purchased, they just state they purchased the materials. So we've got a couple of options. That's to put this back out for bid, or to hold them to the current, hold them to the current agreement. Ask for the money back, and when they start the work, we can reissue that check. Yes.
Can we get we're gonna have to have some correspondence if we went the latter route, figure out if they can hold the price. Because if, in my opinion, if we decide to continue to use this company to do the work and basically extend their contract, and give them more time to get it done, and we want to make sure we're paying the same thing we were going to before, because we're not putting it back out to bid, so therefore the price can't go back up. My opinion.
It's a good point.
Are they gonna do it the same price, Nick?
That's
That's-
what Ethan is asking, Dennis, is that,
No, but they haven't said anything to you about readjusting the price.
no, I think they were waiting to see what the town response was going to be.
I did see a lot of material over the hay-bags that were probably for that job,
where,
so,
what's the town?
So is,
no, over at the business.
Like to get home sometime.
so we've got,
No,
You
that's.
guys want deck of cards or?
so we, what we need to do, so does the board want, so Ethan raises a good point. Do we want to know if they would hold the price before we make a decision?
Don't ask them, hold them to it.
Um, Well, we want our money back to hold in our own accounts and collect interest.
Well, yeah, why don't we get our money back and see if, see if they'll hold, what we'll give them when they're ready to go. So, yeah, we'll hold this for you, but maybe we'll create, some, what's the word I'm looking for? Profit on it, put it in our interest, thank you, on it, and while we hold it, we'll sit there nicely for you for when you are ready to do the job at the same price that we locked you in at.
Yeah,
Shelley?
Can we, and at the same time, get a commitment that it definitely will get done? For next year.
Well, they have in writing will be first on the list.
But we also.
We also had a contract.
contract.
We also had a contract,
So
that's
they
right.
do intend to do it. Just a year, they do still intend to do it.
We don't know if that's.
Well, it says they do intend just a year later, 2023 winter of 2023, 2024. They've already purchased the materials as far as the deposit goes, so, I mean, I would also want to have that materials that we purchased locked in that, because cost, as we all know, goes up. So if we do get our money back and we're holding on to it for them, it would be hard, we'd have to get the materials too.
the initial bid
Yeah.
would, so I can't remember what it was, let's say it was 115,000.
Yeah, 101,000 and we
Yeah,
put
okay.
459,506.
Yeah, so they would do the same job for 101,459.06.
And then what do they do with the materials? Just hold on to it for us?
Don't ask them if they'll do it for that. Tell them that you expect them to do it for that.
So it's, and if they balk at that, we put it out for bid. If they're not willing, I mean, we've got, so I guess we need an answer, we need to know where their thoughts are at.
So, okay.
Shelley?
Is it all right if we get back to them on that? Because we're kind of, our goal was to get it done this year, to see if there's anybody else that can do it this year.
I'd be cautious about pursuing that while you're under an agreement with someone else.
Did you have any other bidders? No, that's a problem.
But I know of some.
I'm okay asking these questions, Madam Chair, and then
Okay.
finding out if it's all right, we come back in a couple of weeks. My concern, main concern is having the dock unavailable for another summer. I was really excited about, and I understand where the company's at. I don't have any issues with that. I understand it. My hope was that we were gonna be ready to roll. Politically, that's, gonna be something that I know that I'm going to have to explain and answer. And my guess is that you as elected folks will feel that question also, so just have that there. Because the one that's there now won't be usable. It wasn't last year. We had a few folks that jumped the fence, so to speak, but we didn't have any accidents or incidents.
So the dock in its entirety or just the L shape like last year? Last year, my understanding was last year it was just the L section. The dock, the stationary one isn't in bad enough shape that it has to be out of commission at this point, correct? Okay. Yep, just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
we were still on the same.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Okay. Mark?
If you stay with the same contractor and they're gonna do it. And if they purchase the materials for it and they're gonna wait, and use them a year, you might want them to be subject to inspection, we don't know how they're gonna be stored or anything else. There's a possibility that some of them could degrade in a year's time, so I would think you wanna give yourself the option to look at it and make sure everything's like new.
Mhm. A new Parks and Rec director could do that.
Just make it a condition of doing the job, if you're gonna want to expect new material. Not new old material.
So we want Joe to get a couple of questions answered, and then we'll have an idea to where to go from there.
What you're gonna ask for your money back now, is that what you said?
That's what we'll put out there. We want our money back. We're expecting them to hold the same price. And if there's, so with that information, I think, to Ethan's point, we'd be able to make a decision, better decision going forward. Is everyone okay with that? Does someone wish to take action now? I mean, do you, what? We're not, this doesn't usually happen. So we're in uncharted territory here, the fact that, someone was unable to fall through the contract matter, they're a local company.
How about we get our money back? We say, and we're gonna look into getting quotes for our own lumber and storing it safely, or somebody else taking it. And then if we do consider going back into contracts with them for the following year, that we hold them to, if they win our bid, it has to be that same bid. So while we're in the process of looking elsewhere or some other, is that possible?
Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
Well, we're still in that contract.
Yes, so while, we're technically still engaged in a contract, if we're gonna tell them to
Which
hold.
they had a breach of it, that's why, I feel like that's.
Well, see, and this is where we need to make a decision. So either we continue with them and the price is held, or if they're like, well, we'll have to let you know, well then, we should open it back up for good.
So can we then table it until Jill gets those questions
Sure.
answered, and then move forward with, it gives us more time to think about it, because this is actually we just got this,
Right.
So
Dennis, yes.
If you go out and look for one prices, you're basically kind of letting them off the hook. Because they're gonna look at that and say, they're looking for somebody else to do the job, so therefore they're letting us out of the contract. And if they go to court, they'll prove that you have gone a different direction by doing that. So I think you should just hold them to the price, make some stipulations on the material. Because you're not gonna find, number one, anybody else to do the job, because there's nobody around, only one person did on the job anyway. You're not gonna find anybody to do it for this summer. That's not gonna happen. Even if you go out to bid, they're not gonna do it till next year. So you're kind of like in a bad spot, but you can at least maybe save the job at the same price. You just have to wait a year to get it done,
If they're willing to do that,
if
Yeah.
they're willing to do that.
and that's what.
But you've
that's
got
what
it by
we
contract.
Mhm.
I don't know what your contract says, if they're in default. That's written in your contract,
Mhm.
what your default terms are.
Yeah, I mean, it's. The contract, there are no penalties, so. All right, we will, what a motion to table this, Joe, or,
Please, Madam Chair, motion, I got a motion to table while I answer your questions in consultation with, who'd like so.
I make a motion that we table the town dock improvements discussion until Joe can get some questions answered, and consult with legal.
Ethan's motion,
Second.
Ethna seconds. Any further discussion? Mark,
I'm just curious, this doesn't have anything, how do these jobs get bid out? How does the town notify the public that they're looking, soliciting bids for this, like the stock project?
Website, Facebook, Maine Municipal Association. At a minimum. MMA, the good thing about MMA, Maine Municipal Association, is it is inspected by a lot of construction companies, nationwide construction companies. Like, I can't think of their names offhand. There's 2 or 3 of them that pick it up, and they'll republish it. So people pay for that service. Contractors pay for that service.
So
We
where on
did-
the
we did
town's
it.
webpage would it be?
I think there's a
I didn't hear
bid.
the question.
Oh, where on the town's website do they find?
Oh, there's there's a category for RFPs. Trying to find it here now. See what it's called. If you go to government, it's the first one in the top right, bid and RFP opportunities.
Okay, so it's on the main page.
Well, yeah, if you go to the main page, hold your mouse over government, and then a green page comes up, and then all the way to the right, it says bid and RFP
Okay,
opportunities.
because I did have a couple of contractors told me they didn't know anything about the town bidding it out. And they said, where was that information? I said, I don't know. I said, I think they put it on the town's website, but I didn't know for sure because I never looked at that part of it. But that's where to tell them to look. And all town solicitations get put on that same site. Looking. Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Ethna,
Is that something that, I know that when you go on to the town's website, Joe, you can sign up to be on a newsletter or something of that nature. Is that something that they could also sign up, local contractors could sign up for, is to be notified when we put something out to bid?
Yes, there's a little radio button.
That notify me section.
It actually says sign up
You just have to sign up.
for text or email subscription.
you can pick your categories.
Yeah.
As to what you want notifications on, which boards, committees, or RFPs. All right, so we have a motion to table Ethan's motion, Ethna seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Under new business, we've got the first reading of the updated harassment policy. So Joe has some notations that
Thanks, Dennis.
Hey, you guys doing a great job, Tom's in good shape.
have a good night, Dennis. All right, so Joe is recommending that we approved an earlier previous version of the anti-discrimination, harassment, sexual harassment, and retaliation policy. So Joe's recommending we rescind the previous first reading and conduct and approve this new corrected version as a first reading. If you could follow that.
We have to amend something.
Madam Chair, the motion would be to rescind the previous first reading. And what happened here is I have a basket of agenda items, and I had put this working document in there as a placeholder, and I didn't remember to update it, so it went through. I gave it wrong.
Easy fix.
By accident. But the motion would be to rescind the previous first reading of the improper version to adopt this first reading. so inclined.
Make a motion to rescind the previous improper first reading of the town of Rangeley anti-discrimination, harassment, sexual harassment, retaliation policy. And to adopt, or not to adopt, but is it to
That's
adopt?
what he said.
Yeah.
This is the first reading.
And to adopt this first reading of the town of Rangeley anti-discrimination, harassment, sexual harassment, retaliation policy that we have before us today.
Ethan's motion
Second.
and Ethna seconds.
Did I say that fast enough?
I'm talking. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Section 11, we have got the town manager report section. So the department head updates are provided monthly. Joe included pages for our reference regarding Board of Selectmen stipends that were pulled from the municipal website. And tuck away for future discussion. And we've got the, all right, let me just see here. I'm jumping around. Okay, sorry. Calendar was next. So first up on calendar, we had a chapter 34 public hearing scheduled for March 15th at which is a week from Wednesday. And where we do not have our final draft of chapter 34 ready for the public to review, it is recommended that we reschedule that for later in the month of March, so the public has plenty of time to review the draft. There were a lot of changes last week, so so what we're waiting for is for Attorney Collins to review our revised chapter 34. And we need to approve that at a Board of Selectmen meeting. Joe, the deadline is early April, correct, for the
April 4th.
deadline is April 4th to hold.
Final public hearing.
So maybe the last week in March. Calendar. So the last week of March begins with Monday, the 27th.
Airport commission from 4:30 to 6 on the 27th, just so you know.
Okay.
But yeah, they normally do it about a half hour or so.
Does Monday work for the board, the 27th? Or
Tuesday doesn't.
Tuesday doesn't for you, Ethan? Okay. Sam, does that tend to be the best day for you for scheduling? Shelley?
The end of the month, I'm not really sure. I don't have a date yet for when the treatment's done. So that's the only thing. I can set it up and then
Wednesday, the 29th? Or is that just, you just don't know?
I
You
just
don't have a
know.
date?
I don't have a date.
Okay, all right. What a firm date, so the public can prepare. So we would, our next meeting, Board of Selectmen meeting is the 20th, where we would approve the final draft. That still puts us. We could always have a meeting just to approve that final draft, couldn't we, Joe? Because that only gives folks a week to review the chapter 34 final. And that's what we're already trying to avoid, is that short notice.
You could keep your date, cancel the public hearing on the 15th, but save your date, because you're all planning on being together anyway. Just have a meeting that included, an item to approve that draft. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As long as you had 7 days to post that draft after the 15th.
Okay. Oh, that's a good idea. So it would be just, okay, so we'll reschedule the public hearing from the 15th to, do we want to say the 27th?
It's gonna be at least 7 days.
Monday, the 27th? Yes, 6 o'clock?
Yep.
Sam's, yep, okay. Just need to enter that.
And we're keeping the 15th at 5 for
Ju-
chapter 34 review.
It would just be the one agenda item to approve that draft we already.
Okay.
We already created last week. So we just don't have the whole document. So we've got all of the deletions from, but we just don't have the completed document in front of us. So
And that
that
still gives Kristen over a week to finish
it
it.
still does give Kristen, yeah,
Right.
Attorney Collins a week, more than a week.
Sounds
And
good.
so it would just be, that'd be the only agenda item, would be approving that.
So I do want to publicly apologize though right now, because I did tell people that the updated document was going to be available by the 8th on the website. That is no longer the case. Obviously, we will not have the document on the website until we approve the draft, which will happen on the 15th.
Right.
Just wanted to put that out there publicly.
I remember that.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd recommend canceling the public hearing on the 15th and replacing it with
Just
the meeting.
Yeah.
Just so it's all duly called.
Okay. So we need a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion, we cancel the previously scheduled public hearing on March 15th, 2023 at 5 PM for chapter 34 and replace it with a meeting to look over and approve the final draft, chapter 34, after the attorneys looked at it.
I think we wanted to replace the public hearing.
Isn't that what I did?
Okay,
You did, yeah.
all right, Ethan's motion.
Second.
And Sam seconds. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous.
Chair, you were going to vote also to schedule the public hearing on the 27th.
Correct.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we schedule a public hearing in regards to chapter 34 for March 27th at 6 p.m.
Ethan's motion
Second.
and Sam seconds. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? All right. That's unanimous. The chapter 38 public hearing for March 21st stands. That will be with the planning board joining us for that. March 21st, we also have scheduled our first warrant public hearing. This is for the budget, and this is following the chapter 38 public hearing.
It's a recommendation. Madam
It's a
Chair. The board
recommendation.
has not taken action on that yet.
Okay,
This is the first public hearing where you talk about the draft warrant as it relates to the budget, things that you
Okay.
figured out already.
So this is everyone's opportunity to be a part and say stuff about the budget.
Right.
so do we, yeah.
This typically is when Tracy asks the nonprofits to come. And the chair gives them a timeline of 60 or 90 seconds to present it. So it'll be a couple hour, hearing between that and 30, but it normally is anyway. So it could be a couple hour hearing.
So do we want to approve that second public hearing on the 21st, or do we want to bump the budget public hearing to a standalone time?
I think it should be a standalone.
Okay. Standalone is the recommendation from Selectman Lowell.
All right, so where's it gonna go?
Okay.
Is that a lot of-
Yeah.
22nd, you're thinking of?
Yeah.
I gotta double check something because I have a class in Augusta that I have to go to for work.
Okay,
I'm not sure what time it ends or if I'd be here in time.
all
So I
right,
have to check the
23rd?
times. 23rd, I have nothing.
I have an LPC committee meeting in Augusta, but I could be, those are usually over at 3.
Okay, so if we did the 23rd at 6 p.m. All right, so the budget first warrant public hearing is scheduled for March 23rd. So we need them 6 p.m. We need a motion for that. So moved. Shelley's motion and Ethan seconds. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Just get this in my phone. Okay. Other business, monthly financials are provided. They are on the website. Now, MMA stipend information for select board chair members provided. Sorry about that. Jumped the gun. So those we can bring forward for discussion at budget. The investment policy has been provided. That was a request from our last meeting. So our goal is for our money, the town taxpayer money, make as much money as possible. Our investment policy provides those guidelines and restrictions. Yes, Shelley.
So I have a question in regards to on line item number 9, internal controls. It said that we'll have written administrative procedures and internal controls. Do we have those in place now?
I believe so.
Okay.
Double check on that.
And item number 11, we're supposed to be receiving quarterly reports.
I don't think we've got one of this quarter.
Great to get that. Yes, Shelley.
So with this and reviewing this is, are we gonna be presented with other options now that we know exactly what we?
Yes, we're gonna come back. We had the icebreaker conversation there a couple weeks ago. We talked about that a little bit internally. We have a better idea what the board is looking for. It's gonna be a little bit of time before we can get that to you, with the budget and everything else going on, but we'll be back. We'll be back.
We just don't want the money to sit there. if we're not getting it.
All right, any questions, any further questions from the board? All right, so we'll look forward to this being on a future agenda. We've got the plantation breakdown of fire department casualty insurance. Shelley.
I'm just curious, what's the amount now? I could just broke down what the, it doesn't show what the total cost
We're gonna have to do some subtraction from the
Yeah, I
budget.
don't have that right in front of me. I can get that for you.
Thank you for providing that breakdown. Got the Poland Spring water withdrawal tolls for January 2023. Any questions there? Let's see, next up is select board communication. Sam, have you got anything? For Sam, Ethna? Shelley? Ethan? We have already had our executive session. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Ethna's motion. And Ethan seconds. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Good night, everybody.